Good morning. Another day in the shop here working on the 48WL. I figure I'm going to put a parts list together and order some small parts. I've got the carburetor torn apart and I know it's missing some pieces. There's a couple things I need to replace because they didn't come out real well. So I'm gathering a list of things I need to order. And I was thinking, well, since I'm ordering things, I might as well look at getting a new throttle cable and a Spar Advance cable since the ones on the bike are in really rough shape. I probably could use the throttle cable. It does move, it doesn't move real well, but I'm not exactly sure what is underneath these spirals. I want to take these handlebars apart today and see what's inside and what's good and what's bad. So I figured I'd take you guys along on the process here. We'll show you how to pull these things apart and see what we've got going on inside. It's our nice little unit. They've got a set screw right on the top. And it looks like, from looking inside, these things are full of grease. So my hope is that they'll come apart fairly easily. Put that screw back in so don't lose it. And as I suspected, these things are full of gunk. I'm going to have to go through and clean these up real well. I see a ton of grease in there. I know I can't show that on the camera. I see a lot of grease in here too, and they don't look real nice on the inside. And I'm not sure what's a proper amount of grease for these and what's needed to actually keep them lubricated. Being that this is super stuck with some really old grease in there, I feel like the assembly isn't going to come apart properly. So I did go ahead and clean it with a little brake cleaner, and then I've re-lubricated it with some fresh Freol is what I'm using. So now I should be able to knock this out. As you can see it coming out here, it's full of just old sticky grease. It's the bad part about old grease. When it sits for a while, it actually becomes almost like glue. Now that I've got the cable assembly starting to come out, I'm going to go ahead and unscrew these so that I should be able to remove this end cap here and then pull the cable back through the bottom. Now that I have both screws out, I can actually manipulate this to see the end here that is curled over. What I'm going to do is I'm going to nip that end off, then I'll be able to pull the spiral apart the rest of the way and then pull this cable out. Now with that end removed, I should be able to back this cable out, I think, through the handlebars. got this side soaking in oil since I still can't remove this liner here at all. As far as I understand, there's a plug inside there that actually holds everything together, and that seems to be really stuck. So I have soaked this in oil. With that, we're going to start on the left-hand side here. We're going to repeat the process on this side. We're going to pull this screw.
Untwist the grip here. That was really dry. Put the screw back in place for now, and we'll push this in or out. The system came out really nice. These bars may have to come back off in order to get this out.
Well guys, it has been a day, that's for sure. I've been working on the 48WL for hours trying to get these spirals taken apart and getting these cables taken off, and man, these things were stuck. The amount of just grime and I don't even know, old grease, rust and all that good stuff stuck inside of the actual handlebars themselves. It made for a nightmare to get this thing apart. Just to walk you through the process so you guys can kind of see how this all comes apart and so it makes sense to you, because I know there's not very good video information online out there. I've talked to a bunch of people today and I've done a lot of reading and a lot of research, and you doubt yourself when things are coming apart really poorly. You think, I must have missed a screw, or there has to be a pin in place, or something is messed up here that I'm doing wrong. And that wasn't the case. It was just years of sitting was actually the issue. So let me show you what we were working with. So as you can see, to remove the throttle itself, there's a screw in place up here. From there, on the bottom side of the handlebar, there's actually another screw hole here where there should be a pin or a screw through here to actually hold the throttle tubing in place. Those pins on the bottom were actually removed before I even started this project here. So I didn't have to fuss with either one of those. Coming around to the left-hand side of the bike, this one was a little easier to remove because this was actually dry. There wasn't a ton of grease and just grossness in here. So what I did was I removed the horn button, all the old wiring and all the things in there that weren't any good. And as you can see on the floor, that's the wiring that was inside the bike. Obviously none of that stuff's any good. It's not factory. It's way too big. it was in bad shape. It's really brittle. So I pulled those wires out actually through the bottom here. And with that being out of the way, then I had room to actually get a punch in the hole here. So then I could actually drive that plunger out just far enough to be able to get a pick in here and push it even that much further. Once I got it to that point, it was just oiling the inside of the tube here and working it back and forth with the exposed wire that was on this end. Thankfully, I had enough wire, the coiled tubing, I guess, I'm not sure what they call that, on this end to be able to kind of push and pull and push and pull and get this lubricated enough to be able to get this apart. On this end, that was not the case. I lubricated this thing. I cleaned it with brake cleaner. I drilled holes in parts to kind of get a spot to where I could grab it with a pick and pull on it, all while pushing from this side. What I ended up doing was, it's a two-piece cap system, and I don't have one here. Possibly I do. I have what's left of the Spar Advance side. And as you can see, this has a spot for that retaining screw to go through and hold this in place so this doesn't go into the handlebars too far or out of the handlebars too far, so it can't pull out. What I ended up doing on the other one, because it was so messed up inside, was drilling this top cap, and I thought I would drill it far enough to be able to hook it with my pick, but I drilled too far and actually broke it off. Once I did that, though, I was able to get behind this, and on the other tube, on the other setup here, you can't see it now because it's really clean, but there was a ton of just grease and grime in here. And with all that being said, I had no way to actually move this thing because it was packed full. It looked like old sand. It's kind of all over the floor here. It was really gross. But once I had that removed, I was actually able to pick all of that grime out of there. Once I could pick the grime out, I could spray it with brake cleaner, and then from there, I was able to actually tip this one just enough to get a pick behind it to pull it a little bit, all while pushing on the handlebars on the bottom side here. So on your Springer bars, there's actually a hole on each side, and then there's one on the bottom on the other side. I believe that's just for the wiring. But I was able to actually push on this side. I cut the tubing off a little shorter so I didn't have to push it all through because there was a fair bit on there. But once I was able to push on this side and kind of push back on this side and work this thing back and forth, I ended up with enough leverage to be able to pull this thing out. Once I got it out, I tell you what, I said hallelujah, and I couldn't have been happier. Now with those removed, I can go ahead and start ordering the proper parts, and I'll start looking those up tonight. Anyway, what a crazy, crazy day. I never expected this project to be that hard. I really thought these handlebars were going to be an easy job. You know, I've never actually watched them come apart, but I've read enough to understand how they come apart. And with that knowledge, I thought, this should be simple. I should be able to get this apart. Should be able to, you know, be down the road in a couple of minutes, make a short video and show everybody what I'm doing. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. I stopped filming. I probably worked on this thing for a good 4 hours today, and honestly I didn't want to make a video that long. It was a lot of frustration, a lot of tools being dropped on the floor kind of heavily, and you know, just the thoughts of I must be doing something wrong. You know, that's kind of the hardship you face in these old projects, is you get to the point where you think, man, maybe I'm doing this wrong. You second guess yourself. That wasn't the case though. It was definitely stuck parts, and you know, a bike being 76 years old, you know, it's going to have those issues. Thankfully, I was able to get it apart without damaging anything really bad, and now I can order the correct parts. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to, you know, of course, put out as much content as I possibly can. I've got 2 bikes in the works. I've got that 48 WL and I've got the 79 FLH, and I want to get both of those kind of going here. The 79 is obviously closer, a lot closer than the 48. The 48, I'm hoping to get the motor built in the next few weeks, and once that's done, then I can really start hammering down, you know, the small parts and getting this thing ready to ride. With the snow being out there and pretty deep, I won't be riding anytime soon, I don't believe. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you guys checking out my channel and watching these videos. As always, be safe, take care, we'll see you next time.